A very good day to Mr. Lee. So today, my group, Iman, Amira, and I, Pei, will be presenting about the Assure model. So what does the Assure model stands for? First for A, it's analyze learners. S, state standards and objectives. S, select strategies, technology, media, and materials. U, utilize technology, media, and materials. R, require learner participation. And E, evaluate and revise. So what is the purpose of using the Assure model? It is to create an effective learning environment so that teachers are encouraged to plan teaching plans systematically, and the technology and media tools and teaching aids used can affect the teaching and learning process. And by systematic, it means that each step in this model will receive input from the previous steps and will give output to the next step. And the Assure model can be used as a guide to plan the use of media and technology in instructional teaching plans. So here are the aspects that need to be considered by a teacher for analyze learners, and here are the steps. So when you are analyzing learners, here are the general characteristics. To analyze learners, teachers must examine the learner in detail. And once the teachers have an understanding and reasonable grasp for the learner's competence at the beginning of the instruction, he or she can modify to assist the learners in their learning endeavors. As part of analyzing your learners, you must identify your audience first. And it can be students, teachers, group members, an organization, a youth group, among many others. You must know that the audience, if you are to select the best medium to meet the objectives you have set. Here's what you should include during the analysis. First, general characteristics. It is a description of the class as a whole, and it includes such information as the number of students, grade or age level, gender, socio-economic factors, exceptionalities, and cultural or ethnic or other types of diversity. Next is entry competencies. This is a description of the types of knowledge expected of the learners. You can ask questions such as, do the learners have the knowledge base required to enter the lesson? Do they have the entry competencies and technical vocabularies for the lesson? And do they already master the skills you are planning about to teach? Or do they have biases or misconceptions about the subjects? Next is the learning styles. Learning styles refers to a cluster of psychological traits that determine how an individual perceives, interacts with, and responds emotionally to learning environments. Gardner was dissatisfied with the concept of IQ and its unitary view of intelligence, so he identified 7 aspects of intelligence. First, verbal or linguistic for language. Second, logical and mathematical for scientific and quantitative aspects. Third, visual or spatial. Fourth, musical or rhythmic. Fifth, bodily or kinesthetic for dancing or athletics. Sixth, interpersonal, the ability to understand other people. And lastly, intrapersonal, the ability to understand oneself. So here's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. My name is Anisafia from U5 and I will be presenting one of the steps of the Assure model, which is state objectives. So what are state objectives? This statement consists of a specification of what the learners will be able to do as a result of the instruction. Objectives are the learning outcomes, such as what will the student learn from the lesson. In order to develop proper objectives, you must frame them in terms of desired behavior. The objectives can be used in assessing the success of the students, perhaps for the grading process. So the ABCDs of well-stated learning objectives includes audience, behavior, conditions, and degree. So for the first ABCD of well-stated learning objective, it is audience. So for whom is the objective intended? the audience in this criteria is the students. So the audience focuses on what the learner is doing, not on what the teacher is doing. Learning is most likely to take place when the learner is active, mentally processing an idea or physically practicing a skill. Audience is not what the teacher does. The objective begins by stating whose capability is going to be changed, which is the students. Next is behavior. What is the behavior or performance to be demonstrated? The heart of the objective is the verb describing the new capability that the audience will have after instruction. This verb is most likely to communicate your intent clearly if it is stated as an observable behavior. What will the learner be able to do after completing instruction? All of these are categorized under the behavior step. The next one is conditions. What are the conditions under which the behavior or performance will be observed? A statement of objectives should include the conditions under which performance is to be observed, if such conditions are relevant. The fourth one that rounds up the well-stated learning objective is degree. To what degree will the knowledge or skill be mastered? The final requirement of a well-stated objective is to indicate the standard by which acceptable performance will be judged. This includes what degree of accuracy or proficiency must the learner display. Degree also states whether the criteria are stated in qualitative or quantitative terms. The next one is classification of objectives. An objective may be classified according to the primary type of learning outcome. There are 4 domains of learning that are widely accepted, which are cognitive skills, affective skills, interpersonal skills, and motor skills. Objectives are not intended to limit what a student learns, but rather to provide a maximum level of expected achievement. So thank you. That is all from the state objective of the Assure model. We will move on to the third step.
Hello, hi, good morning to Mr. Lee. So I am Afifa binti Wazir. I am here to present Assure model. My group member is Wong and Soleha. So what is the Assure model? Assure model is a planned teaching guide by integrating media and technology. It is a systematic approach of writing lesson plans that helps teachers in organizing instructional procedures. So these models place the focus on the learner and the overall outcome of accomplishing learning objectives. Assure model also use teacher usually use this process in writing lesson plans and in improving teaching and learning. Teachers prefer the Assure model as it is designed to be used for a few hours of instruction and for each individual student. This model does not require high complexity of delivered media, deep ID knowledge, or high revision of designs. So there are 6 steps of Assure model. Is first, analyze learners. S stand for state standards and objective. Another S is for select strategies, technology, media, and materials. U for utilize technology, media, and materials. R for require learner participation. And E is for evaluate and revise. So S, select strategies, technology, media, and materials. So first, you have to figure out what the audience need. And then the second step is you have to select the appropriate method for the given learning task. Select available materials, modify existing materials, or design new materials to help accomplish this task. The instructor should connect the audience to the objectives. The teacher must determine what method to use. So the 2-stage of media selection process is first deciding So the selection process has two stages. So the first one is deciding on appropriate method for the given learning task. Teacher often structure assignment to allow students with different learning styles to pursue their individual practice through different methods. For example, having abstract random. Thinkers use a role-play simulations. And then another example is concrete sequential. So thinkers use a lab manual for structured problem solving. Okay, so the second stage, you have to choose an appropriate media format and selecting, modifying or designing the specific materials within that format. Choosing a media format. So a media format is the physical form in which a message is incorporated and displayed. Media formats include flip charts, that is still image and text, slides, that is projected still image, audio, that is voice and music, film, that is the moving image on screen, and computer multimedia such as graphics, text, and moving image on a TV set. Each has different strengths and limitations in terms of the types of messages that can be recorded and displayed. Things to consider in media selection models: instructional situation or setting. Example, large group, small group, or self-instruction. Second, learner variables. For example, whether reader, non-reader, or auditory preference, and the nature of the objective. For example, cognitive, affective, motor skill, or interpersonal must be considered against the presentational capabilities of each of the media formats. Example, presenting still visuals, motion visuals, printed words, or spoken words. Some models also take into consideration the capability of each format to give feedback to the learner. Obtaining specific materials: select, modify, or design. So, obtaining appropriate materials will generally involve one of three alternatives. So, first, selecting available materials. Second, modifying existing materials. Third, designing new materials. So, I will go to the first one, selecting available materials. First, you can select it from multimedia. It refers to content that uses a combination of different content forms. This contrasts with media that use only rudimentary computer displays such as text-only or traditional forms of printed includes or a hand-produced combination material of text, multimedia audio, still images, animation, video, or interactivity content forms. Video: the elements of television, as in program or script, pertaining to the transmission or reception of the image. Next one is graphics. It's a visual presentation on some surface, such as a wall, canvas, screen paper, or stone to brand, inform, illustrate, or entertain. And then the next one is audio, that is pertaining to or employed in the transmission, reception, or reproduction of sound. And then the next one is printed text, which is the main body of matter in a manuscript, book, newspaper, and etc. As distinguished from notes, appendix, headings, illustration, and etc. Another one is real objects, which are objects from real life used in educators' classroom to instruction improve by students' understanding of other cultures and real life situations. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, a very good evening to Mr. Lee and my fellow classmates. Okay, now I would like to present about the Azure model in technology of learning, where in this case I would like to present about our focus, that is U. What is U? Okay, actually U, we are going to focus about utilize methods, media, and materials. Okay, so let's see what is it all about. Okay, first, what we are going to talk about U, which is utilize method, media, and materials. Okay, actually the steps are to develop your plan for implementing your media and materials for each type of media and materials. Okay, first, the teacher selects and describes in how they are going to implement the media or material into the lesson to help the learners meet the lesson's objective. Means that on how we can use the technology to ease the learning, to make the learning more effective. Okay, next, the media, materials, and technology selected should be focused on carrying out the selected method. Means that the media or materials of the technology need to be suitable for the method, because actually the teacher should utilize the method, media, and materials to make the learning more effective. Okay, okay. Some of it are review the materials, practice the presentation, prepare the environment, prepare the audience, and present. Okay, those are steps to utilize the models and materials and all that, so that the teacher will utilize the usage of technology in the classroom. Okay, first of all, let's see on preview the materials. Okay, when we are previewing the materials, no instructional materials should be used blind. Okay. During the selection process, should have determined the materials are appropriate for audience and objective. Means that we are previewing, we are viewing, we are evaluating, we are seeing the materials whether it is suitable or appropriate for the what we're going to do and who we are going to present it. Means that for the target students, is it suitable? Is it acceptable? Is it do we can carry out perfectly, effectively? Okay, next, practice the presentation. After previewing the materials, you should practice your portion of presentation. However, do not over practice the presentation will sound canned. What do we mean by canned here? Means that it's like totally scripted, totally not natural, not something comes naturally from us. Okay, we should practice our presentation so that it will be smooth. It will be no any um, negative side of it, but we must also make it natural and comes from um, our heart, not just like something we read, something we memorize, but it is something that we understand and we need to make other people understand too. So we need to practice it. Okay. Next, prepare the environment. Wherever the presentation is to take place, whether in classroom, auditorium, meeting room, or whatever, the facilities will have to be put in order. Means that, okay, as the teacher, we need to prepare the environment. Okay, as we are going to use the technology, we must make it a suitable, a conducive environment. Not just that we just make it like usual, we just present it. That's not really good. We must make it a good place for students to learn by utilizing the many media requires um, because um, actually many media requires a darkened room, um, so that maybe the students could see it better. And of course, we need a convenient power supply and access to light switches. Because we know that the usage of media is not something just we can do it as how we want. We need to make it um, it is dependable on other aspects too, and we need to make sure that those aspects are fulfilled uh, fully. Okay, next. Present the material. This is what you've been preparing for. So you will want to make the most of it. Our term of this is showmanship. Means that how we present it, how we going to perform it. Yes, should be like this. Instructor should be able to direct attention in the classroom. Means that how we going to address our presentation so that it could be reached by our audience, which are the students. So if we follow all those steps, we can present an effective multimedia presentation with the usage of technology. Okay, that's all from us for now, Bing. Okay, thank you.
Good evening to Mr. Lee. My name is Mahfuzah binti Ibrahim from U5, and today I will be presenting about the Assure model, specifically the letter R. I am representing my group mates Farhana and Zubaida. So what is R in Assure model? R means require learner participation. It is the fifth step in the Assure model. It is to provide opportunities for learners to practice the capability that has been taught to them. Teachers need to find ways on how to get each learner actively and individually involved in the lesson. So, teachers need to incorporate questions and answers, discussions, group work, hands-on activities, and other ways of getting pupils actively involved in the learning of the content. This is to make sure that no one is left behind and that the opportunities for the learners to learn is maximized. Next, teachers should allow pupils to construct knowledge as opposed to trying to teach them knowledge. So, teachers need to give learners some space and opportunities for them to gain knowledge by themselves instead of spoon-feeding them information. And lastly, feedback must be provided to the learner before any type of evaluation is conducted. This is to ensure that the learner is informed of what is expected of them before the evaluation. And that is all from me. Thank you.
A very good morning to Mr. Lee. So today I will represent my group to present the Assure model, that is the evaluation and revise. Okay, my group consists of me, Alice, and also Leanne. Okay, the evaluate and revise is the last step in Assure model, and it happens once the enhancement has been implemented and collect data feedback regarding to the difficulties that may have been encountered during the instruction from the beginning till the end. So the last step in the Assure model is the most important step. Aspects that need to be considered by a teacher in this step. After the instruction, teacher must evaluate the entire instruction process. There are few things that the teacher must reflect upon. The first one is the lesson. So did your lesson meet the learning objectives that you planned early before the class starts, or how can it be improved if the learning objective doesn't meet by the student? The second one is the stated objective. It is very helpful to reflect on your objection. Objective. The instruction strategy, the instructional materials, and also the assessment. By evaluating the learners against the objective, it can be determined if the lesson was effective and whether any step needs to be modified or re-examined. The third one is instructor performance, that is the teacher's performance. So the teacher can give the students some feedback form for them to fill up regarding their teacher's performance, whether the media the teacher used is good enough for them to understand, and also do they enjoy the lesson. So was their experience positive overall, and do the students feel that they have reached the teacher's objective and their own personal objective? If not, the teacher has to correct or change the learning objective. so that the student can meet it. The fourth is media effectiveness. The overall response to the media, whether the students feel that they understand what the media or the video is talking about. Do the teacher face the problems regarding the media, whether there's sound or not, and then the effectiveness. So, what's the teacher's choice of media and material is a good one, or how will the teacher assess the effectiveness of these tools? The last thing that teacher need to reflect upon is the student's performance. So from the assessment that the teacher gives to the student, the teacher can plot a map so that he or she can see whether the student meet the objective or not. To meet the objective, the student must reach a 75% of proficiency rating. So the teacher must evaluate the instruction process from the start till the finish using the objective she or he creates in the beginning. If there are still the still if there are if there are discrepancies between what they intended and what actually happened during the lesson, the teacher must make appropriate revision before using the lesson again. So a survey is very important in this step because it will give suggestions for the teacher in the future lesson. So I state I talk about assessment in before that. So there are two types of assessment. Assessment is very important for teachers to know whether the student understand the topic or not. There are two types of assessment. The first one is summative assessment. So summative assessment is an evaluation of the sum product of the lesson feedback that sums the teaching and learning process. It takes place after the learning has completely finished. For example, quizzes, projects, portfolios, and also examination. The second assessment is formative assessment. This type of assessment is an ongoing, flexible, and more informal diagnostic tool. It provides feedback information during the instructional process while the learning is taking place. For example, drawing a concept map to show understanding, Q&A sections, and also reflection journal. Okay, with that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much.